the centuries-old curse that finally breaks and releases a demon seeking a new vessel to dominate the human world. The film begins with a woman named Mary and her daughter Sadie traveling to the home of a witch named Ambrose. Ambrose is known as a witch who has the ability to curse someone by drinking the blood of the intended victim. Many people have come to her seeking revenge on those they despise, though using Ambrose's dark services requires a great deal of money. Mary's visit is not without reason. She has long been tormented by a man named John and now wishes to end her suffering with the witch's help. Upon arriving, Mary asks Sadie to wait outside while she goes in to meet Ambrose. In front of the witch, Mary explains that she wants to curse a man named John, the one who has made her life miserable. She hands Ambrose a bottle containing John's blood, which is needed for the curse ritual. Mary hopes that through Ambrose's power, she can take revenge and finally put an end to her pain. After receiving the bottle, Ambrose asks what kind of curse Mary wants to cast. Mary replies that she wants John to be possessed by a demonic entity, a curse that will torment him endlessly. Hearing this, Ambrose warns her that once the curse begins, she must immediately go to John, who will suddenly suffer and gain supernatural power from the demon Ambrose sends. As preparation, Ambrose gives Mary a special knife, instructing her that when the demon tries to escape from John's body, she must carve a cross on his neck using the knife. This mark will trap and seal the demon within John forever. Once everything is ready, Ambrose drinks the blood and begins the ritual.
For both to be locked and held together.
However, something goes terribly wrong. Ambrose starts hearing the buzzing of flies, a sound only those afflicted by a curse can hear. The curse has turned back on her, and the demon begins to take control of her body. Mary then reveals the truth. The blood she gave was not John's, but Ambrose's own. A few days earlier, while Ambrose was asleep, Sadie had sneaked into her house and secretly collected her blood. Mary then pretended to visit Ambrose, acting as if she wanted to curse someone, but in reality she had planned revenge all along. Mary's motive was personal. Her husband had died from a curse sent by Ambrose years ago, and this was her way to avenge him. As the demon fully consumes Ambrose, Mary acts swiftly, carving a cross on Ambrose's neck with the very knife the witch had given her. This act traps both Ambrose's soul and the demon together in one body for eternity. Mary and Sadie then leave the place, satisfied that their revenge is complete. Three months later, the story shifts to a woman named Ellie, who is mourning the tragic death of her mother. Ellie's mother was found hanging, leaving her daughter in deep sorrow. With no siblings, Ellie's only close companion is her best friend Beth. Following her mother's death, Ellie decides to sell her mother's house to earn money for her nursing school tuition. The house is her only valuable inheritance, and selling it becomes a crucial step for Ellie to move forward with her life.
Hey, Beth.
Then, while Ellie is washing the dishes, she suddenly hears music playing. The sound comes from a vinyl record that has mysteriously started spinning on its own. Not knowing who turned it on, Ellie feels confused and decides to stop the music and put the record back in its place. The next day, Ellie and Beth are busy cleaning up Ellie's mother's house. While they are working, Ellie is approached by a neighbor named Dudley, the person who found Ellie's mother hanging in the house. Dudley tells Ellie that she would never have entered the house if she hadn't heard the sound of a record playing. When Dudley heard the music, she felt terrified, as if something evil was hidden within the melody. She blames Ellie for her mother's death, saying it was Ellie's neglect that led to such a tragic end. It turns out that Ellie's mother had been ill for quite some time, and no one was there to care for her. Her illness began after her husband left her for another woman, which shattered her heart and caused her health to deteriorate further. Ellie, too, had abandoned her mother when she grew older, choosing to pursue her own life and happiness without realizing how lonely and depressed her mother had become. Dudley tells Ellie that if only she had taken care of her mother might never have taken her own life. Overcome with anger, Dudley slaps Ellie across the face. After this confrontation, Ellie talks to Beth. The conversation with Dudley leaves Ellie uncertain about selling her mother's house. She decides to stay there for a while instead. Ellie expresses her hatred toward her father for leaving the family just for another woman, but at the same time, she feels guilty for having abandoned her mother as well. This realization makes Ellie feel that she is no different from her father. Beth listens and tries to comfort her, advising Ellie not to keep blaming herself. She encourages Ellie to learn to forgive herself and focus on her future. To help distract her, Beth invites Ellie to come to a blood donation event that will take place the next day. As it's time for Beth to leave for work, she prepares to go to the hospital where she has been working as a nurse for years. After Beth leaves, Ellie decides to go into her mother's bedroom to look through her belongings. There, she finds a photo album filled with signs of her mother's heartbreak after being abandoned by both her husband and Ellie. Every picture of Ellie and her father has been crossed out, revealing the depth of her mother's resentment. One photo of her father has been torn apart, symbolizing the pain and anger that consumed her. On each page, Ellie finds her mother's handwritten notes full of questions about why her husband and daughter had the heart to leave her alone. Reading these notes, Ellie becomes overwhelmed with guilt and sorrow. In the midst of her grief, the phone suddenly rings. Ellie answers and hears the voice of a woman introducing herself as Alma White-Lorne, a friend of her mother's. Alma explains that she is looking for a nurse to care for her employer, a woman named Ambrose, who is currently suffering from a stroke. Alma says that Ellie's mother personally recommended her for the job, and that she's willing to pay generously for Ellie's help. Hearing this, Ellie is puzzled, as she hasn't been home for a long time and has no idea why her mother would recommend her. She wonders whether this might somehow be her mother's way of giving her a chance to make amends for the past. Ellie tells Alma that she will think about the offer. The next day, during the blood donation event, Ellie confides in Beth about Alma's offer to work as a caretaker for an old woman named Ambrose. Ellie is unsure whether to accept or decline the job. Beth advises her to take it, saying it could be a good opportunity for Ellie to change her environment and help her move on from her grief. Besides, Ellie desperately needs money to pay for her nursing school tuition. While Beth draws Ellie's blood, she notices a scar on Ellie's arm and curiously asks about it. Ellie explains that back when she was a child, shortly after her father left them, she woke up one night and saw her mother holding a needle in a glass bottle. Her mother had drawn blood from her for reasons Ellie never understood. Ellie believes it might have been the result of her mother's emotional breakdown after being abandoned by her husband. After sharing this, Ellie asks Beth to accompany her to Ambrose's residence since Beth is the only one with a car who can take her there.
Do you think she had it all planned out? My mom was sitting there with a syringe and a little glass.
I have a car. It's a piece of shit, but it's a car.
As night falls, while Ellie is washing her face, she suddenly hears a voice calling her name. When she looks around to find the source, she's horrified to see her mother hanging from the ceiling, but then she wakes up, realizing it was just a nightmare. The dream feels disturbingly real, and she tells Beth about it. As a caring friend, Beth suggests Ellie see a psychiatrist to check on her mental state, but Ellie refuses, afraid she might end up like her mother, who suffered similar problems. As they continue talking, the vinyl record that Ellie had previously put away suddenly starts spinning again on its own.
Ellie, come on. It's... Throw it in a box or the wall.
Ellie panics and explains to Beth that it's the same song her mother used to play often. When Ellie was a child, she would hear that song every night, and now, hearing it again brings back haunting memories of her mother's death. It's also the same song Dudley heard when she discovered Ellie's mother hanging. Seeing the distress on Ellie's face, Beth suggests destroying the record so it no longer reminds her of her mother. Ellie decides to postpone that because she has to go to Ambrose's house later that day. She asks Beth to drive her there. When they arrive, Beth grows uneasy and urges Ellie to reconsider taking the job, as Ambrose's house is located deep in the woods, surrounded by thick trees, giving the area an eerie and desolate feeling. The isolation makes Beth even more worried about Ellie's safety if she accepts the job. However, Ellie stands firm in her decision. She believes this is her chance to make things right, to atone for her past mistakes. She doesn't want Ambrose to suffer the same fate as her mother. Ellie sees this as an opportunity for redemption, to help someone in need and heal her own guilt in the process. With determination in her heart, Ellie vows to care for Ambrose with all her strength and ensure that Ambrose never ends up like her mother. Upon arriving at Ambrose's house, Ellie and Beth are warmly greeted by Alma, Ambrose's personal assistant. With a polite smile, Alma introduces herself and explains that she is the one responsible for taking care of Mrs. Ambrose. She then invites Ellie and Beth to follow her inside.
Room until Monday. A bed and a ward simply.
Alma gives them a detailed tour of the house, explaining each room and the available facilities.
Help yourself to some fruit.
Refrigerator, oven.
You have my phone number in case of an emergency.
After the short tour, Alma leads them to the bedroom where Ambrose lies sick in bed. In that room, Alma explains that Ambrose's condition has been deteriorating day by day. She is currently suffering from a stroke and has been unconscious since yesterday. Alma also reveals that although Ambrose has a daughter, the daughter cruelly abandoned her in this critical state. She adds that Ambrose can only be taken to the hospital on Monday because that's the only day a hospital room will be available. With a serious tone, Alma asks Ellie to take good care of Ambrose and to make sure she doesn't leave the house until the ambulance arrives in a few days. Alma also firmly reminds her not to bring any alcohol into the home. After providing all the necessary information, Alma shows Ellie the room prepared for her. Before leaving, Alma gives Ellie her phone number for emergencies and hands her an advance payment for the caregiving job. She explains that she has important matters to attend to elsewhere and trusts Ellie to take good care of Ambrose while she's gone.
You inside. Half up front. I believe they were old acquaintances, no?
After Alma departs, Beth, still worried, asks Ellie for the house phone number so she can check on her from time to time. Ellie gives Beth the number, promising to stay in touch and call if anything strange happens. Before leaving, Beth gently touches Ellie's shoulder, reminding her to be careful and take care of herself. After Beth leaves, Ellie enters Ambrose's room to check on her patient. As she adjusts Ambrose's blanket, she's startled to see that the woman's legs are covered with wounds. Ellie tries to stay calm and carefully tends to the injuries. But suddenly, Ambrose regains consciousness. She behaves strangely, and Ellie grows alarmed when she notices a thick, sticky fluid oozing from Ambrose's mouth. Ellie panics and tries to wipe it away, but before she can do much, Ambrose slips back into unconsciousness. Night falls, and exhausted from caring for Ambrose all day, Ellie decides to relax for a while. She walks into the living room and notices Ambrose's vinyl record collection. One record in particular catches her eye. It has the name Dorothy Ambrose written on the cover. Ellie assumes Dorothy must be Ambrose's daughter, the one who left her behind. Curious, Ellie decides to play the record. Afterward, she goes back into Ambrose's room to check on her once more, but fatigue soon takes over, and Ellie accidentally falls asleep beside the old woman's bed. In the middle of the night, something terrifying happens. Ambrose suddenly wakes up, her eyes completely black, and from her mouth, a dark, ghostly hand begins to emerge. The black hand reaches toward Ellie, trying to force its way into her mouth. Fortunately, Ellie is jolted awake by the sound of the house phone ringing. It's Beth, calling to make sure she's okay. While Ellie is still shaken, she suddenly hears a loud thud. A rotten apple has been thrown at the window. Alarmed, she rushes to look outside and finds the decaying apple with a note attached to it. The message warns her to leave the house before the witch burns in hell. Disturbed and frightened, Ellie immediately calls the police to report the incident. A police officer named Greg arrives to follow up on her report. Greg tells her it's likely just a prank by some local kids living nearby, though he assures her that he and his team will patrol the area to make sure she stays safe. During their conversation, Greg mentions that the house has a dark, mysterious history. Although many locals believe the place is cursed, Greg admits he doesn't really believe in such things. He then asks Ellie how long she plans to stay in Ambrose's house. Ellie tells Greg that she will stay at the house until Monday when the ambulance arrives to take Mrs. Ambrose to the hospital. At first, Greg assumes the sick person is Dorothy, Ambrose's daughter, but Ellie quickly clarifies that it's Mrs. Ambrose herself who's ill. Greg is stunned because, according to the rumors in town, Mrs. Ambrose was said to have died long ago. Ellie insists that Ambrose is still alive, merely suffering from a stroke. Though skeptical, Greg doesn't argue further and eventually leaves after ensuring Ellie is safe.
Looks like someone's trying to scare you is all. I'll ask around to see if anybody saw anything.
Just until Monday. An ambulance is gonna come take. He had a stroke, but we're still hanging in there.
Oh, Miss Ambrose?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I better get going.
The next morning, while jogging through the forest, Ellie unexpectedly encounters a mysterious young woman, Sadie. Without saying a word, Sadie stares at Ellie for a moment before quietly walking away.
Hey!
Later that day, Ellie receives a call from Beth, who remains deeply worried about her friend working alone in such an isolated area. Out of concern, Beth decides to investigate Alma further. Her father happens to have a friend named Novak, a private investigator skilled at tracking people, and Beth plans to ask for his help. Before hanging up, Beth reminds Ellie to be careful and to call her immediately if anything strange happens.
Too far from that old telephone and watch your back. Insist on staying there, then I insist on looking.
That night, Ellie wakes suddenly to strange noises coming from Ambrose's room. Heart pounding, she cautiously goes to check, only to find Ambrose lying motionless in bed. The noises have vanished, leaving Ellie unsettled and confused. Exhausted, she returns to her room and eventually falls asleep, only to be haunted by another horrific nightmare of her mother hanging herself.
Stay with you!
She wakes at dawn, shaken but determined to stay busy, and begins cleaning the house. While sweeping outside, she is startled when Mary and Sadie suddenly appear. Mary apologizes for the incident the night before, explaining that the rotten apple thrown at Ambrose's window was Sadie's doing. It wasn't meant as an act of hostility. Sadie was trying to drive Ellie away from the house for her own safety. Ellie, puzzled, notices Sadie staring fearfully toward the house, her eyes filled with dread. When Ellie asks what she's afraid of, Sadie remains silent. Mary sighs and reveals a chilling truth that Ellie never knew. The woman she's caring for isn't truly alive. Mary explains that Ambrose, once a powerful witch, is already dead. What remains in that bed is a vessel possessed by a demon. Unbeknownst to Ellie, Ambrose used to offer her services to those who sought revenge, cursing people through dark rituals that involved drinking their blood. Years ago, Mary and Sadie trapped her in her own curse. They tricked Ambrose into drinking her own blood, which caused the demon she summoned to possess her instead. Ambrose's soul and the demon were sealed together in eternal torment by the cross carved on her neck. Mary goes on to explain that Ambrose's daughter Dorothy has been searching for a way to free her mother from the curse. Dorothy's plan involves performing a ritual that requires a human sacrifice, and that sacrifice is meant to be Ellie. The only way to break the seal is by transferring the demon into a young and living body like hers. Ellie is shocked and refuses to believe such a story. Convinced that Mary and Sadie are trying to scare her, she reaches for the phone to call the police. But before she can, Mary tells Sadie to open her mouth. To Ellie's horror, she sees that Sadie has no tongue. She was born that way. Mary then recounts her own tragic past. Years ago, she was married to a man named Thomas. Their marriage was peaceful until Dorothy appeared and fell obsessively in love with Thomas. Because Thomas was already married, he rejected her advances, which drove Dorothy to madness. Heartbroken and consumed by jealousy, Dorothy begged her mother, the witch Ambrose, to curse Thomas. The curse caused every child born to Mary to suffer horribly. Sadie, their first child, was born without a tongue, and their second, Lily, died a week after birth. Overcome with guilt and despair, Thomas blamed himself for their children's suffering and ultimately took his own life by hanging himself. From that moment, Mary and Sadie swore revenge on Ambrose for the misery she had brought upon their family. Although they succeeded in trapping the demon inside Ambrose's body, their vengeance remains incomplete. Their final plan is to burn Ambrose's body along with the demon imprisoned within it, destroying both once and for all. Ellie listens to Mary's explanation in confusion, still unable to fully believe in anything supernatural. Though uneasy, she decides to remain in the house until Monday, waiting for the ambulance to take Ambrose to the hospital as planned. Despite her determination, a growing sense of dread lingers over her, and every creak and shadow in the house keeps her on edge.
But don't think I won't be ready for the day it wakes up.
Sorry, do you really expect me to believe in curses?
Thomas blamed himself. Only we're not done yet, Sadie and me. We will burn down this cabin. You don't have a daughter, do you?
Meanwhile, Beth visits her father to ask about Novak's investigation into the mysterious woman named Alma Whitelorn. According to Novak's report, there are no official records of anyone by that name. Alma Whitelorn doesn't appear in any public database, identification registry, or local archive. The only person ever documented as Ambrose's close relative is her daughter, Dorothy. Novak concludes that Alma Whitelorn is most likely an alias, and that her real identity is Dorothy Ambrose herself. Beth's father, deeply concerned, warns her that something dark once happened in that house and insists she get Ellie out of there before it's too late. Shocked by the discovery that Alma is actually Dorothy, Beth heads to the public library to verify the information for herself. There, she finds several old articles about the Ambrose family and learns the disturbing truth. Ambrose was indeed a powerful witch who had cursed Thomas, Mary's husband, leading to his tragic suicide. As Beth reads, she doesn't realize Dorothy is already watching her from a distance. Remembering that Dorothy, disguised as Alma, told Ellie that Ambrose would be taken to the hospital on Monday, Beth grows increasingly alarmed. She rushes to the hospital to confirm the schedule and asks a friend working there to check if a patient named Ambrose is on the admission list for Monday. After checking the system, her friend reveals there's no record of any patient by that name. This means Ambrose was never actually scheduled for hospitalization. Dorothy lied. Realizing Ellie is in grave danger, Beth hurries toward Ambrose's house, trying to call Ellie along the way to warn her to get out immediately. But Ellie doesn't answer. Beth tries calling the house phone too, but again, there's no response. The drive takes about half an hour, and midway through, Beth receives a text message, supposedly from Ellie, saying she has returned home and wants Beth to come over because she has important information about the Ambrose family that she learned from Mary.
Hank, you little bat.
Relieved, but still uneasy, Beth heads to Ellie's house. When she arrives, she hears the shower running in the bathroom and assumes Ellie is inside. She calls out to her several times but gets no response. After a moment of silence, Beth cautiously pulls back the shower curtain, and to her horror, it's not Ellie behind it, but Dorothy. Dorothy, having stolen Ellie's phone, lured Beth into a trap. Without hesitation, Dorothy attacks her savagely with a sharp weapon. Beth fights back desperately, but she's no match for Dorothy's strength and rage. The struggle ends brutally as Beth is killed at Dorothy's hands. Elsewhere, Ellie, who had fallen asleep in the living room of Ambrose's house, suddenly wakes to faint voices coming from Ambrose's bedroom. When she goes to check, the voices abruptly stop, leaving her in uneasy silence. Hungry and trying to calm herself, Ellie goes to the kitchen to make dinner. While cooking, she accidentally drops an egg, and as she bends down to clean the mess, she notices something unusual, a small trapdoor hidden beneath the carpet. Surrounding it are strange symbols, markings of satanic rituals etched faintly into the wooden floor. Heart-pounding, Ellie lifts the door and descends the stairs into a dimly lit basement. Down there, she discovers a large, dust-covered book filled with photographs of people who once sought Ambrose's help to curse others. As she flips through the pages, her hands begin to tremble when she finds a familiar face, her mother. The horrifying realization hits her. Her own mother had once visited Ambrose to place a curse on her unfaithful husband, Ellie's father. But the discovery doesn't end there. On a nearby shelf, Ellie spots several glass bottles filled with dark, dried blood. Among them, she finds one labeled with her name. Inside, it is the same blood her mother had taken from her when she was a child. Ellie accidentally breaks the bottle when she hears a noise coming from upstairs. Remembering Mary's words about the cross carved on Ambrose's neck, she quickly checks it, and the mark is truly there. Terrified, Ellie attempts to leave the house, but she is stopped by a demon taking the form of her mother. The demon, imitating her mother's voice, begs Ellie not to abandon her and pleads to be taken care of. Overwhelmed by guilt, Ellie hesitates, but suddenly a demonic hand emerges from Ambrose's mouth. Ellie manages to flee and runs toward the door just as she hears police sirens approaching. Greg has arrived after receiving a report that Mary intends to burn down the cabin. He comes to escort Ellie to safety and take her back to town. When Greg asks about Ambrose's condition, Ellie explains that Ambrose is dead and her body is possessed by a demon. Although her story sounds impossible, Ellie insists it is the truth. Greg is skeptical and tells her to wait while he checks on Ambrose himself. As he enters Ambrose's room, the door slams shut and locks, trapping him inside. The demon attacks Greg, and despite Ellie's desperate attempt to force the door open, she is too late. Greg is killed. Panicking, Ellie runs outside and begs another officer for help. But before she can explain anything, a speeding car crashes into the officer, killing him instantly. In the chaos that follows, Ellie is stunned when she sees the driver. It's Beth. Without thinking, Ellie rushes to the wrecked car, opens the door, and pulls Beth's limp body out. As Ellie turns away for a split second, exhausted from everything she has been through, Beth suddenly stirs. At first, Ellie feels relieved, believing her friend is alive. But something feels wrong. When she turns back, she realizes the horrifying truth. The one who woke up isn't Beth at all, but Dorothy, who murdered Beth and is now wearing her face as a disguise. Dorothy immediately knocks Ellie unconscious. Minutes later, Ellie wakes to find Dorothy calmly extracting her blood with a syringe. Dorothy explains that she knew Ellie's mother from years ago when she came to Ambrose seeking a curse for her unfaithful husband. But because Ellie's mother couldn't afford the ritual, she paid with Ellie's blood instead, blood that Ambrose kept stored in the basement for future use. Since Ellie broke the original bottle, Dorothy is forced to take new blood from her. She plans to use Ellie's blood to transfer the demon from Ambrose's body into Ellie's. If she succeeds, Dorothy believes the demon will finally leave her mother's body, allowing Ambrose to return to normal. Dorothy opens the ancient ritual book and begins chanting the incantations that summon the demon.
Believe me, I know. Wait, Dorothy.
Are you ready?
Invite you to rise out of your shell. Sweet inside your heart. He is fresh vessel.
The demon, trapped for years inside Ambrose, responds. Slowly, it emerges from Ambrose's mouth, but Dorothy is unprepared for its violent exit. Ambrose's head is destroyed in the process, killing her instantly and releasing the demon in its pure form. Now, free and without a vessel, the demon approaches the bound and helpless Ellie. It rejoices at the thought of taking over a young, strong human body, no longer restricted by the cross seal that once limited its power inside Ambrose. Just as the demon is about to possess Ellie, Mary bursts into the room, determined to save her. Knowing exactly how dangerous the demon is, Mary attacks Dorothy first, choking her until she loses consciousness. Mary then takes over the ritual, trying to recite counter incantations to stop the demon from entering Ellie. The demon, furious, lashes out. While Mary distracts it, Ellie struggles to free herself and manages to break loose. She grabs a knife and carves a cross onto the demon's back, causing it to shriek in agony. Moments later, Sadie appears with fireworks, shoves them into the demon's mouth, and the explosion sets the creature ablaze. The cabin burns to the ground, leaving only ashes and debris behind. In the final scene, Ellie visits her mother's grave and destroys the vinyl record that has haunted her with memories of her mother's death. After Beth's disappearance, the hospital, desperate for staff, offers Ellie a position to replace her friend. Ellie accepts, believing this might be her chance to move forward. However, when Ellie enters the burn ward, she is confronted by a horrifying sight. Dorothy, who should be dead, is alive and lying in one of the beds. Even more disturbing, every burn patient in the room has been found hanging, dead. Ellie instantly understands what has happened. The being in front of her is no longer Dorothy, but the demon, now fully possessing her. Without the cross seal that once restricted its power, the demon is now free, stronger than ever. Realizing the threat is far from over, Ellie prepares herself for the even greater darkness that lies ahead, and the story ends.